Hey, Snow's here. This is the art piece that I'm working on for you. I told you it's almost done, and I was actually working on it today, and I'm realizing it needs an outline, like a thicker outline, because it's kind of blending. The more paint I put on it, it's blending in, and I don't. So it's not as close to being done as I thought. But by the end of today, I think that we'll be there, because I'm just gonna add I was gonna add the thick outline, but I ran out of the color that I needed. So I gotta go get some more paint. Anyone who's interested in buying my artwork, I linked in the description box down below, justcultytings.com, which is my website, and we do have pieces. They're kind of right now because all of the money is going directly to the funds for the Malibu retreat. And I've said down below again, because a lot of you guys were asking about how you can just donate instead of having to buy any products, just wanting to help, which is so sweet. So I did put my PayPal down below, but please, I'm going to ask everyone, whoever donates to the PayPal, to somehow either send me a P.O Box or an address or something, some way where I can send you guys a thank you card. Thank you, Denise. Let me see who's all on here. Today is episode 27. Crystal's here. Hi, Crystal. I'm doing good. How are you? Oh, it's good to see you here. Sorry, I'm thinking it's kind of annoying seeing that I'm not like centered. So, who is 27? I'm glad you asked. So, number 27 in the order. Some people come to my channel, I'm realizing now, and they don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about numbered men. So maybe I should do an intro on every live stream, which is annoying though, because I know a lot of you guys already know, and you're like, yeah, Amanda. But for anyone who is new here, I'll just do like a little quick rough draft of what a numbered man is. So I came from this cult known as the Order, and it's a polygamous cult, and what one of their systems is in the Order is they give out these numbers to the numbered men, which is like holy men in the Order. So they have like number 9 is the leader Paul Kingston right now. Number 8 was the leader before him, Ortel Kingston. And it's kind of like when you get this number, it's like a ticket to heaven. And of course, women don't get them. There was arguments and people were upset that women didn't get them. And so then they came up with this reason as like, oh, but women do get them as long as they marry a numbered man. And they had this system where it was like, so like my dad has 3 wives. So his number's 36. So the first wife would be 361, and then my mom would be, because she's the second wife, 362, and then the third wife would be 363, which doesn't make sense, because what happens when we number a bunch of men give out these numbers, and then they're in the 300s, then someone else is going to have 361, 36, you know? I think they just said that to make the women feel better about themselves, but they definitely taught us as a woman to get to heaven, marrying a numbered man is the best way to get to heaven. And another way to get a number, like the main ways to get a number, is to live polygamy, have 3 wives to get a celestial kingdom, or work your entire life into the ground for the Order. Oh, thank you, Jessica. Oh, let me make sure I put it on live chat so I can see all the comments. Hello, Anthony. It's good to see you. Hi, Emma. Hi, Amber. Hi, Ashley. Hi, David. Hi, Diana. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jackie. Jay Snow. I don't even know, Jay Snow, if you can tell a difference in your artwork. I can, and I think the camera doesn't capture it, but it looks better than before. I'm just gonna have to blend a little bit and thicken it. I'm like nervous. Nervous that you're not gonna like it. Hi, Flickerfade. Hi, Trista. Trista's here. Aw, Chantel, I'm sorry you're sick. Faith is here. Sandy's here. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to get a little rundown of the numbered men for the people who don't know what I'm talking about. Because I'm noticing we're having more people joining these live streams. And I don't know if you saw the view count on my last video too. We're having I just was looking at my YouTube Studio app, and it was saying a huge increase of like new viewers. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm like catering to that as well. Because I think I kind of got in the habit of just talking to you guys because you guys are my friends. So I don't want to be annoying to newcomers who are like, what the hell is she talking about? I'm glad you're here too, Jackie. Hey Amanda, I used to work for a construction company that did a lot of work for the Kingstons. For example, they were building daycare buildings, schools, and also office buildings. Like what? Are you sure it was for the Kingstons or the FLDS? I wonder, what, do you know the name of the company? I could tell you if it was Kingston. Thank you, Crystal. I'm feeling like I need to start practicing more with my paint. But I think with this whole like move that I'm doing, I told you guys that I moved to Vegas after my divorce, and I'm moving away from Vegas now, and I think that I just, that's why today I wasn't even able to, usually I can say like a set schedule on when I'm doing my lives, trying to anyways at noon, but it's been a little chaotic around here. Eventually when I'm all moved and settled, then I think it'll be easier. What coffee am I drinking? So today I have, do you guys want me to bring the beans in here? It's coffee beans from Oregon. Are you guys interested in that? Don't be nervous, it's beautiful. Oh, thank you. Okay, hang on. I love talking about coffee, so I'm gonna show you what coffee beans I am drinking today. So it's like this, can you see it? It says Lux on the bottom, and it's from, I got it from this place in Oregon. I believe it was Oregon. But yeah, it's really good. It's like a medium roast, I believe. Stay there. Okay. Let's get into Ivy. First time you cut a live for about 3 weeks. Well, I'm glad you're here. Do you have an idea why more polygamists don't get prosecuted even though polygamy is illegal? So have you seen the new, there's a new documentary on Netflix, and they actually explain why they're not getting prosecuted. They're like saying, oh, it's hard to trace, and there's a lot of people, like for example, me, my dad on my birth certificate is a guy named Kyle Grant, which I've never even met a guy named Kyle Grant. I was watching this documentary though, that's on Netflix, and the FLDS were doing that too. The other polygamous cults that was run by Warren Jeffs, they had the kids from the like later wives, not the first wife, but the later wives, their kids would have on their birth certificates in the father's slot a fake name. So I guess maybe it's just like they're so good at, I don't know, because part of me thinks that it really is just Utah. Utah's run by the polygamists, essentially. But yeah, I would recommend that documentary. Why can't I think of what the name of the documentary is? Happy Sunday. Hi, Rochelle. Okay, I am going to just read you guys the notes on who number 27 is today. So, because they're still alive, I don't know if I'm going to call them by their first name or their last name, but the person who had the number before, again, it's another one of those numbers that got taken and given away. So number 27 was originally Eldon Eugene Peterson. Remember how we talked about Eskel Peterson, my great-grandpa? It was his brother. But today we know number 27 as, maybe I'll just call him Mr. Gustavson. Okay? So that's who number 27 is known as today. Again, I don't know the whole story on why the number 27 was ripped from this Eldon Eugene Peterson and given to this Mr. Gustavson, but regardless, that's how it happened. I'm going to try really hard not to confuse anyone. This history might be kind of boring to outsiders, but I feel like it's interesting to order members to know. So, Mr. Gustavson's parents, I think I can say their parents and stuff because they passed away. But yeah, this is gonna get confusing once I start talking about the genealogy of it all. Maybe I'll skip the names and all that because that might just confuse everyone, even myself. I'll just say, so Mr. Gustavson I'm trying to figure out how to explain this in a way that will make sense to everyone. Basically, Mr. Gustavson was like hardcore, pure bloodline from his mom's side and his dad's side. So they were very prideful about their family coming from the good bloodlines. And the rumor is that he tells his family that they are the second best family in the order. And I always thought it was interesting because I could tell that that family was a little more prideful, and I always wondered why. They were very like prideful about their family name, and I guess it's because there's the bloodlines on both sides were very special. So I don't know. It's dumb, but that's the case. So anyways, Mr. Gustavson was an avid runner and has always kept himself in really good shape. And he's won a lot of medals running marathons and even dominates the field in the elderly Olympics because he's older now. And because of this, he was put in charge of the running events in the order each year for the 24th of July celebrations. He's also a very trusted order member. He was one of the ones that was put in charge of gathering the signed 10% forms each year. And I'm going to explain what a 10% form is again, just for anyone who doesn't understand what a 10% form is. I've gotten this question recently, so I just want to clarify. So in the order to be a member of the order of the cult, the polygamous cult that I was a part of, you have to sign these forms called 10% forms. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I have a video that has a copy of the 10% form, and me and Michelle and Allison kind of dissect the entire form. It's really hard to get a copy of the forms though, because they'll wait for you to sign it, and then they'll take it and they don't give you a copy of it. So this Mr. Gustavson was one of the handful of people that was trusted with these 10% forms and gathering them afterwards. And even for me, like I think I've told you this story multiple times, but I didn't want to sign the last form because I wanted to leave the order, and they like harassed me basically into signing it. They followed me to my work. They went to church and tried to give me the signed one. They wouldn't leave it with me though. Like the last time it happened was I was working at the order bank, and one of Paul's wives came and was like staring at me, waiting, like put the paper in front of me and staring at me, waiting for me to sign it. And I was just like, "Can you give me a minute?" She was like, "Why do you need a minute?" But yeah, it's like hard to get a copy of it. So anyways, Mr. Gustavson was one of the ones that was in charge of helping, pass out the 10% forms and gathering the signed 10% forms. So he has 3 wives and a lot of kids. I don't know exactly how many kids he has, but yeah, he is older. He is healthier though, and I think it's due to him being so like physically fit. But he's definitely a very devoted order member, that's for sure. But the 10% forms is still like baffling me today that we signed them, but I also feel like it was smart of them to not like just have copies of them running around, because when me and Michelle and Allison were looking at these 10% forms and I was reading through them, I was like, I cannot believe that I signed these. Because when you actually read through them and you actually like ponder what it all means, it's like you're their little slave. You owe them money if you cancel the account, and you owe them money if you keep the account. So it's a lose-lose situation for you. But I just remember as a kid just blindly signing it and following, like not knowing what I was signing. It's very interesting. Hi Emily, I might be missing something as I'm not from the US, but how do they even prove a law has been broken if only the first marriage is registered? Can celestial marriage even be legally recognized? That's another good point, right? So like to get prosecuted for living polygamy, how can you prosecute someone who really only had a spiritual wedding, right? So do you prosecute them for having children? That's another thing though, is like my dad's 3rd wife is his half sister. And it is illegal to live incest, is it not? But he's not legally married to her, but he does have 8 children with her, with his own sister. So it's like, it's illegal, but they just don't do anything about it? Or is it because they can't prove it without a blood test? I don't know. But it's a well-known fact that the order lives incest, and like I know that Utah State's aware of it all, but I just think that one time when I went to this polygamist rally, and was he like one of the state legislators? I can't remember what his status was, but he got up and he was like, we physically do not have enough room in our jails for all of the polygamists in Utah. So we can't prosecute everyone for living polygamy because we physically cannot hold them all in our jails. I just remember him saying that at one of the public rallies, and I was thinking it's a good point, but I was at the rally not thinking we should arrest all these polygamists, but thinking we should figure out a way to, because like we said, like polygamy has been outlawed in Canada because they weren't able to find a single case of polygamy where there wasn't child abuse or incest or neglect. So they just banned it altogether because it's not necessarily the polygamy that's the issue, it's everything that comes with polygamy. So it's like, how do you create, I don't know, a safe space for, I don't know. It sucks because it's like, here it is against the law, but no one's doing anything, so what's the point of it being against the law? It's an interesting, I know, like, I understand your guys' questions, but I also have them, so I can't answer them. I can only tell you what I know. And even, I think that documentary is a really good idea to watch if you have these questions. Let me see if I can remember what this documentary is called. Is it called Keep Sweet? I think it's called Keep Sweet. Pray and Obey, yeah. So they kind of talk about the similar things that what we're talking about to get away with so much, especially here in Utah. There were so many similarities. I really hope that Order members watch that documentary because even as I was watching it, I was like, this is just like the Order. It's like a copy and paste version of it. And I think that if they see that, it will help them realize, because something that helped me realize that the Order was wrong was, not that the Order was wrong, but that they may be flawed, because the Order would teach that it was the only cult. The Order taught that they were the only church that was going to be, like, get into the celestial kingdom. Like we were so lucky to be in this chosen church. But then when I started learning about Warren Jeff's church and the FLDS and what they believe the exact same way as us. They believe that they're the only ones and they're the chosen ones. So then seeing that mindset, for me, it made me really open my eyes to be like, wow, like what makes me any different than them? And they believe that Warren Jeffs is going to bring them into heaven. And the only difference is we believe Paul is going to bring us into heaven. He's the man on the watchtower, right? And that's just one example. There's so many examples of that all over the world. Eskel says, it's okay if you're late on your lives. I know I told Eskel that I was going to try to be live sooner, but just took a while to get ready. And, yeah, I got a little sidetracked. Utah should be like Kentucky and PR. You need to get blood work proving you aren't siblings to get legally married. Oh my gosh, they should. Hi, Russ. Russ is here. Just woke up. What time is it over there, Russ? Done. Oh. Netflix just released Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. Yeah, that's the one, Flicker Fade. I think it is. Oh, okay, so it's changed. So it's like an updated version of, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. This is not confusing at all. I understand what you're saying now. AB believes the same thing. Yeah, so I went to the AB church actually. AB is the United Apostolic Brethren, and they're in, I believe, Bluffdale, Utah. They're also the ones that Leah from the show, she's from, if you watch the pilot of Escaping Polygamy, Leah escapes AB, and she's got an amazing story. Anyway, so the AUB group, I went to their church one day because I had a friend who was active in that church, and it was around the time that I was leaving the order. And I didn't want to join it, I was interested and intrigued and kind of shocked that they were going to let me go to it, because I was like, we don't just let just anyone come to the order church, you know? So I went and I sat in there and I was like, this is so much like the order, except for it seemed a little less strict on some things and then more strict on other things. But same basis, same like preachings. But that AUB group is ultimately, they are where Cody Brown and his family is from. I don't know if Cody Brown ever publicly talks about it, but everyone knows. And even when I went to that church session, I saw some of Cody Brown's kids at the church. So they definitely do believe in, well, maybe they don't anymore, but that's where they came from, was the AUB group. I just don't know can someone tell me any polygamists that lives polygamy not because they believe it's going to get them into heaven. Because do you know anyone who would want to do that? Who would want to make their mental capacity, like, drain their mental health? Oh, I'm sorry, Russ. We'll take as many naps as you want. Sleeping the pain away. Melatonin helps if you need something to help you sleep. Can anyone go to an order church ceremony? No, they have black fences up now. So ever since I left, I don't know if it has something to do with me leaving, but after I left, they put these like big metal black fences up that they keep closed. I think they close it during their sessions, which is weird though, because the order is the LDCC, Latter-day Church of Christ, and you can see on the front of the building there's this little like faded sign that says LDCC, and I think they put that out there to be like, we're a public church, so that they can get those, you know how churches don't get taxed. So if they're technically a public church, then they don't get taxed, right? But then it's like, but they're not public, because they don't just let anyone in there. I can't walk in there. I would get escorted off the property. Someone who, they even had, so there's an apartment complex across the street, and there's a lot of, it's more of like a Hispanic community right across the street from the order, and some of them wandered in and they were escorted out. So it's definitely not public, but I guarantee you they're trying to collect like public funds off of it, or like a non-tax, use it as a write-off or some shit, some crap, sorry. I'm a little not filtered today. Because you look at what they do at the Vanguard public school, they're collecting as much in public funds, and then it's not a public school, it's a private school, it's an all-white Kingston private school, you know? And then on their, if it's a public school, they can't be, you know, forcing religion, yet their Vanguard public school has their, they call it release time, but it's not really release time, they have all the kids go to the seminary. And the seminary building has pictures of Paul, and they, you know, they go to seminary. As it's basically a requirement. So is that a public school? No. Morgan says it's so awesome to see how much you have grown since escaping polygamy. Thank you. I'm glad it shows, because sometimes I don't know. I used to look back on 18-year-old me and be like, oh my gosh, she's so dumb, like why did she get in all these situations? But now I look back and I'm like, I feel like I did the best with what I knew. Like tried to, you know, find the healthy with all of the unhealthy that I was being shown. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I was able to find myself, and I'm happy with where I'm at right now. I do think it took longer than I wanted it to, but I guess it doesn't really matter as long as I made it, right? And I mean, I could have not ever figured out how to find what's important, you know? So thank you. I really appreciate that, Morgan. I feel like I finally found out who I am. Well, at least for the most part. I did want to answer a question because I saw this question was like so common on my video. And I even had a lot of you guys asking in my DMs and on Patreon, like what makeup I was wearing. I know that's so dumb, but I don't want to make a whole video on it because I feel like that's kind of boring, but this is for the girls that were asking. I kind of recreated the look today, but it's literally just this palette. It's my new palette that I got, and I think that, so anyone who has green eyes should get this palette because it really helps like those green eyes pop. And I have green eyes, but it's really just this shade right here. It's a subtle purple, but purple is, so if you have green eyes, you're supposed to do purple to make the green pop. For blue eyes, you do brown to make the blue come out. And for brown eyes, I think it's green. Yeah. But yeah, super easy. I did this one for the video, and then if I want to like put some sparkles on it, I'll do like a concealer. Am I just gonna do a tutorial for you guys? So I'll do like a concealer, and then I'll put the sparkles over the concealer. And then of course, this is like, I've already showed you guys this, right? Maybe I should just do a whole video where I'm just like, maybe that's a good video for the Patreon, just talking and doing my makeup. I feel like it might be kind of boring for YouTube. I also do have a podcast out. I didn't tell you guys the name of it because I was a little nervous, and I wanted to have 3 episodes out before I actually launch it, but this week, I'm coming out, so I think I'm gonna do tomorrow the first episode, Tuesday the second, and then Wednesday the third. So I'll have them all on YouTube as well as on the podcast. One episode is just gonna be a teaser because it was such a long episode to edit. But I just kind of I just didn't want to start with one episode of the podcast and have you guys like when you start a new like TV series, if there was only one episode, it just sucks because then you're like, now what do I do with my life? So I have 3 episodes out right now, and maybe I'll just share with you guys what the podcast is called, and you guys can go there. I think some people have actually figured it out because I have this app on here that tells me like how many people have listened to the podcast. And before I mentioned it, so I did mention it on Patreon, but when I mentioned it on Patreon, I only had like a few listens, and then when I mentioned it briefly on my last video, I had like way more listens. So I don't know how they found it. How'd you guys find it? But let's see. So we have, sorry, I'm trying to show you what it looks like so you can find it. Okay, so the name of the podcast actually was decided by you guys. So it's called the Culty Crew Podcast. I actually did a poll, and there was a few different name ideas that I was given by people on Patreon, some of you guys in the comments. So I did a poll of different ones that I really liked, and this one was the one that won, the Culty Crew Podcast. So it looks like this. If you go to Spotify, we have 3 episodes. They're out now. One with Jessica. It's an hour and 18 minutes, I believe. And then I have just a little intro episode that I filmed right after I filmed my last video that I posted. And then Product of the Cult is an episode that I made with Cami and Eskel. So there's 3 episodes that you guys can hop on and listen to those afterwards. These are good for like long drives. But the Jessica Stephanie episode, I actually have the whole like camera footage of that, and I think I'm just going to post that on my YouTube. And then we also have an episode coming out with Michelle. If you guys remember Michelle from the show Escaping Polygamy, her episode was Ava, AVA, but her real name is Michelle, and I'm actually working on editing that one now. I'm hoping that we can do new episodes every week. But of course, let me know in my comment boxes. That's kind of why I want to do like at least teaser episodes of the podcast on my YouTube so that I can get, because I don't think you can comment on Spotify. I want to hear your guys' feedback on what you like, what you dislike, what you would want to see. So that's why I want to put like little episodes on my YouTube as well. You guys like a makeup tutorial idea? Okay. There's definitely time limit on finding yourself. There's no time limit on finding yourself. We are always learning and growing. I think that's so true, Jay Snow. I need to stop being like, oh, I should have done it sooner. Da, da, da. Yay for makeup tutorial. Okay, if you guys want one for YouTube. I know the guys aren't going to want to watch that, but... I just followed the podcast on Spotify. Ooh, thank you. How do you follow it? I didn't know you could follow a podcast. Can you? Should I really have a podcast if I don't know this? Oh, you can. You can. If you look underneath there's a little button that says follow. And I guess it notifies you. And you can click the bell, just like YouTube. YouTube, if you click the bell, it will like notify you when a new video comes out. Is the podcast on Apple Podcasts? I don't believe so. The app that I use to post the podcast, it automatically posts to a few different, I'll have to look into that. But if not, I can figure out how to put it on Apple Podcasts. I bet you it's not that hard. What else is needed for the Malibu retreat? I'm getting some, you guys told me to put an Amazon wish list together. I need to just do that. My sister can help me with that. But yeah, beach towels is what I'm getting, and like sunscreen, stuff like that, because we're going to be out on the ocean. We were able to raise roughly, we almost have half of the retreat covered because you guys have donated and purchased mugs and artwork, and I've been keeping a list of everyone that has donated, has put money towards a mug or artwork, And by the time I am in Malibu with the girls, I'm gonna have cards for everyone and have them sign them all. And then you're gonna get a picture of the girls that were on the retreat, all of us. So if anyone is interested in getting a little card and wanting to donate, I did put in my description box down below my PayPal. It's just Amanda Ray Grants, and then just make sure that you leave a, I don't know, like either a link to your Instagram or some way that I can contact you to get to your mailing address so I can send you a thank you card. But there's that, and then there's also the link to my mugs. And then I'm gonna talk to my sister today about figuring out how to do an Amazon wish list for, because that would be nice to just get all the stuff that the girls need for this trip. Oh, thank you, Diana. I really am excited to hear what your feedback is on the podcast. I was really nervous about posting it, so I actually asked someone from Patreon that I just really trusted their judgment and their opinion. So I actually did take down one episode and then edit it and re-uploaded it. We were talking about the intro, because I actually originally, this is such a dumb piece of information, but I think it's interesting. And you guys wouldn't have known this if I didn't tell you this. So the intro to the podcast was going to be, so if you go to the podcast and go to Jessica Stephanie episode, the intro was going to be that slowed version of my main theme song that I have on my YouTube. But then this Patreon was like, I don't know what it is, but I just really miss what the main theme song. And I thought about it, I was like, I felt the same way, but I thought it was just me. So then I ended up changing, like all of them are gonna be that same, like How Did I Get Here by Odessa. Instead of doing Slow Down, it's just gonna be the original. I was trying to switch it up, but it backfired. But yeah, I like comments like that too. Like if you guys want to DM me on Patreon and we can discuss like new ideas and things like that, or just in the description box down below when I start posting the podcast episode on YouTube as well. Do I get paid per views on the podcast? So these are the test runs right now, and then I'm working on, I guess it's like an AdSense type thing for Spotify. I'm still pretty new to it, so if anyone else has a podcast and knows and wants to DM me and answer my questions. I have a friend who has a podcast too, so I'm going to talk to them about a little bit more about it. It would be great in the future if you could create a playlist of music. Oh, I have playlists on Spotify. I wonder if they're public. How do you tell? I do have followers on here. My goodness. Can like everyone see everything on here? You guys are teaching me. There's like a Vegas playlist. Okay, so if you guys can see everything on here, I have an Escaping Polygamy playlist that I made when I was 18, 19, a Silver Linings playlist. But I also share this account with like 4 other people, and they have their own, like Manda 2 is a Manda 2.0's playlist. Someone made one called Lava Jams, I don't know what that is. Half of this stuff, I don't know what it is. All the stuff that you're gonna judge, it wasn't me. I found it, started following you, can't wait to hear your podcast. How often are you going to be doing them? I'm trying for weekly podcasts. Trying for that. So, but because of that, my whole point of the podcast was to be able to get new perspectives and new ideas and stuff like that. So that if I'm going weekly, you might be actually having a lot of episodes with just me. So I'm hoping that somehow I can figure out, maybe like via Zoom or like, there's gotta be a way, because I'm not gonna be able to like meet up with all of these people all the time. I don't know, maybe I will. Who knows? But yeah, weekly is the goal. I just am realizing that it might be a little bit harder to do because I do weekly live streams, and then I'm trying to do weekly YouTube videos, and then a weekly podcast, and then my Patreon, and then But we will see how it goes. What's your Instagram? I can never find it. My Instagram? It's just Amanda Ray. Let me find it so you can see. I think that because my profile picture is a brunette, it's when I have brunette hair, and people are like, they don't think that that's me. So maybe I should change it. Maybe when I go to Malibu, I'll take another picture and have my blonde hair, but this is my account. Someone just mentioned me in their story. Wait, who mentioned me in their story? I'm gonna repost it, whoever it is. Whoever posted me in their story, you're getting reposted right now. Aha! I'm reposting it right now. She posted that she's watching me. So she's watching me, watching her, watching me. That's funny. Reposted. The podcast is on YouTube. Okay, Lukey, so sorry, am I confusing people? The podcast is on Spotify. There's 3 episodes. Tomorrow, the intro episode is going to be on YouTube. And then the next day is Jessica's episode will be on YouTube, like the video footage of it, because the podcast is just the sound, right? And then Wednesday will be the 3rd episode. So you're just going to get boom, 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 3 episodes on YouTube. But you can go listen to them now on podcast since you came onto the live stream. You get to get the Culty Crew tea first. But yeah, definitely let me know your guys' opinions. Tomorrow when I do post the intro, I'm mainly posting it because I want you guys to comment and tell me what you liked, what you disliked, what are some ideas that you would like to see. So, but yeah, sorry for the confusion. Yes, the podcast is on Spotify. It's called the Culty Crew Podcast. It will be on YouTube tomorrow, and then you'll be up to date by the end of the week. Thank you, Panda Bear. You're following my Instagram now. I'm gonna follow you back. I love seeing, like, putting faces to your guys' names. Is this you? 21? I don't know if it's you, but I'm following it. Whoever just followed me, I just followed you back. What time is it? Eskel called me before I went live and he wanted to go live at a certain time. I'm wondering if maybe we'll stay live for a little bit longer and then I'll turn the time over to Eskel. Can you go through the episodes of Escaping Polygamy and talk about your feelings and what they didn't show, update on the people? Sierra, on my podcast, Jessica and I actually do discuss, we kind of dive into, I ask her what was the hardest escape that you helped with on Escaping Polygamy and what was the easiest. So we kind of dive into the hardest escape for her was Melanie's, and I could have guessed that one because that one was very traumatic. But she kind of just dived into in depth like what was going on in her head the whole time, like the thought processes piece by piece as they were coming. And I think that episode was really interesting. And I learned a lot from it. And we talk about our favorite episode, well, just our favorite escape, and we both agreed it was Marianne Barlow's escape because she just was such a, I mean, first of all, we were helping someone leave a cult that wasn't the order. Whenever we help someone leave the order, it's a lot more triggering because this is our cult. This is the cult that also gave us the trauma. We still get triggered with FLDS escapes as well, but it's different because we never believed in Warren Jeffs. We don't really know these people like and have history with them like we do with this cult, right? So there's that, so it made it easier to help Marianne. And then on top of it, Marianne was just such a sweet, genuine, down-to-earth, trusting person. And we talked about this on the podcast episode too. I was like, I just felt like the instant that I met Marianne, like even watching our introduction on Escaping Polygamy, watching us meet for the first time, that was the first time meeting and watching it. I'm like, it looks like kind of staged because we get along so well. But I swear it was just one of those things where it was an instant connection, and we've been friends ever since. And even Jessica said she felt that. She just felt that like the raw, real, authentic Marianne was like there for us all. And I'm sure that was, I mean, I don't know how, but maybe it's just because she knew herself more than the average, ex-FLDS or FLDS member. Just checking, are you back living in Utah? Just wondering. No, did you see my last video? I talked about how I moved to Vegas. I moved to Vegas, but I'm actually moving away from Vegas because I don't know about Vegas. It's been fun, but I'm ready to move on to different things. But yeah, I don't live in Utah. I don't know that I ever would live in Utah again. I do visit a lot though. I'm not from that work and I love learning from your videos. Aw, thank you. Can't wait for the podcast. Well, Lulu, after you watch this, then you can go over to Eskel's YouTube channel and watch his, and then you can go over to the podcast. We do have an episode together. It's called The Product of a Cult, and it starts off with me and Eskel just talking kind of how pedophilia was very glorified in the order. And just kind of how it was very normal it was just so normalized to see. I hate talking too much about this because I don't want to spoil it, but we do talk about how there was this story of this man who was in the order and he was holding this baby, and there's this picture where he's holding the baby, and they ended up putting that picture in the house of the family because he ended up marrying the baby in the picture. So they would glorify it, like, oh, grandpa knew that he was going to marry the baby when he was holding her. Like, he knew that that was going to be his wife. So stories like that were common in the order and glorified, like, that's grandma and grandpa. And it's like, it was normal. But you think of it now, like, if you guys heard someone saying, yeah, I knew I was going to marry that baby, you would be like, where's the police? Are they okay? But yeah, so we dissect kind of how pedophilia is very normalized in the order, and it's almost like, not that it's not their fault for being pedophiles, no, because they're choosing to do that, but it's like, it takes a very, I don't know, someone who's willing to question that and like break those boundaries and wonder why it's normal to do those things. But it's also like, if you're surrounded with a bunch of pedophiles, it's more likely that you're going to be one, you know? Sorry, this has gotten a little dark. But if you're interested in hearing a little bit more of mine and Eskel's take on that, because I do ask him, I was like, what did you, because you were a man in the order too. So how do you feel about that? Very interesting perspectives. Colorado City is not at all like it used to be. Oh yeah, I heard that all the time from FLDS members. The Colorado City apparently is like, so you know how we talk about how when you die in the order they believe that there's the celestial, and terrestrial kingdoms. There's like 3 different levels of heaven. They kind of practice that almost in FLDS culture, where Colorado City is like where all of the bad ones go. And then like I've heard of stories where if one kid is like more righteous than the rest of the family, they'll get plucked out of the family, and they're chosen by God to go to like the holier place. I can't remember what it's called, but they're like the chosen ones that get to go to, like if you watch Escaping Polygamy, where we went to the compound in South Dakota to try to help Rachel Jeffs get her younger sister Teresa out. That's where she was sent, because she was holier than thou, right? But because of that, they don't get to ever see their family again. Like, they don't have cell phones, too. But yeah, Colorado City, sorry, I'm like, how did I get on the subject? Colorado City, I think it was more for the holier people, but now I don't know what happened. I think it's a lot of people who ended up leaving and staying in Colorado City, and there's a lot of, like, Gentiles in Colorado City now. So it's not as, like, crazy as it used to be, is what I'm hearing. What did Caitlin say? Rachel Jeffs. Have you guys read Rachel Jeffs' book called Breaking Free? I thought it was it's a hard read because it's got a lot of trauma in it, but it's a very eye-opening. You're amazing. I appreciate your willingness to look into yourself as well as learning from others. I look forward to your YouTube videos every week. Aw, thank you. I definitely was open-minded to therapy and being willing to realize that I need to fix myself too, because a lot of times I don't know, I really didn't think that when I left the cult that I was bringing the cult with me until I was able to self-reflect and realize, like, kind of like pick the pieces apart. I think everyone should do this. Look at these parts of you that maybe you don't like so much or that maybe make you feel a certain way. Look at those parts of you and ask yourself, are these parts of me actually me, or are they parts of like my childhood trauma, or are they parts of me that like, where are these parts coming from? You know? And if they don't serve you, then why are you carrying them, you know? So, but yeah, that took me years to figure out that, like, part of the reason why I was sad a lot of the time was it's my own fault. Because I was bringing a lot of those toxic tendencies with me. And I think that realizing that I brought the cult with me for so many years made me so scared to have kids, because it makes me scared that, like, let's say I had a child right now, what if I unknowingly, again, like how I unknowingly brought the cult with me, what if I had a kid right now and I unknowingly put those, like, toxic, unhealthy things on my kid, and I don't even realize it because that was what I was raised in. That was what the normal, you know? It's like you have to sift through everything. And it's not just me. A lot of people were raised with parents that gave them trauma. So it's like, as an adult, we have to sift through those pieces of us that are us and that we like and we want to carry, and then get rid of those pieces of us that are hindering our well-being and our success and our health. I have read Breaking Free. It's a good but sad. I agree, Cecilia. I had to take a break. Like, there was a point in the book where I was like, okay, I need to stop reading this. Just because, maybe it was because it was so similar to my story too, and it was triggering. Okay, Amber, have a good time at dinner. The South Dakota compound is no longer. Where are you getting this information? Because I have not heard that. Colorado City has changed so much because of most of the apostates moving back. I agree, yeah. I think what I'm hearing is the apostate. For anyone who doesn't know, apostates are the ones who leave. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Gentiles is like me. I was never a part of the FLDS, so I am considered to be a Gentile. But an apostate is someone who leaves or, like, gets excommunicated, then they're an apostate. And if it's similar to what the order believes, an apostate is almost like worse than a Gentile, because unless they're like somehow got kicked out, if they're an apostate and they're trying to hurt the church, it's better that they were, like, never born, kind of thing. But yeah, so what I'm hearing is the people that apostates, the ex-FLDS, will go back and try to, like, reclaim the properties. So now there's all these, like, FLDS, but they're surrounded by ex-FLDS, so it's kind of like almost deemed as, like, unholy ground at this point. I think the circle is called the United Order, if I remember. Oh yeah. You know what's funny is the AUB has that term too, the order. I think it's in the Book of Mormon. Remember to hit that like button, everyone. Oh, thank you, Flicker Fade. I got that information from the locals of Colorado City and Hilldale. Interesting. That's the South Dakota compound is that doesn't make sense that it just shut down, because when I went there was multiple homes, there was, like, the storehouse, it was like a functioning society, but behind these huge gates, and then, you know, the lookout towers. So is it just deserted? Did they decide not to have that compound anymore because it was broadcasted on Escaping Polygamy? I would love to. Actually, maybe I can ask. I have some. Well, here's the thing. I have ex-FLDS friends. I don't know anyone who's currently in that would be willing to talk to me about that stuff. I can fish around, actually. I could probably find that out. I could fish around. Have you ever thought of doing an interview with an ex-member of the 12 tribes? I think it would be interesting. The 12 tribes of Israel? If you can get me in contact with them, yes, I would definitely. Pringles, South Dakota. Yes, Crystal. So the compound was South Dakota, but Pringles, and it's funny because every time when we were filming, so we had to go get lunch and stuff before we were going to go on the compound. We went to this place in South Dakota. I can't remember where it was, but people were like, what brought you here? And we're like, oh, we're going to go visit Pringles. Every time we said Pringles, they were like, oh, you're going to go to the FLDS. Like, everyone knew that there was this huge compound in Pringles. It was just a known thing. It's like, isn't it interesting? I think that's how Colorado City became too, because it's like, it sticks out like a sore thumb because there's people with these dresses walking around everywhere, you know? And the Order, I feel like, was a lot better at hiding in plain sight. But the FLDS, that's what's different between the two. The Order wanted to hide in plain sight to be able to, you know, grow their business and like be in hand with businessmen and like, you know, buddy with the cops. But the FLDS, at least from my friends, their ex-FLDS, they told me they never wanted to blend into society because society was worldly. So that was the difference. Not that the Order wanted to like be, we weren't supposed to be with outsiders, obviously. You guys who watch my channel, you know what I mean, right? Where there was a line. We needed to blend in, but not be like them. Amanda, have you ever considered writing a book yourself too? Might be therapeutic as well. I just spell things wrong. I wouldn't need an editor, but I have thought about it. And especially after reading Rachel Jeff's book, I was like, this is so inspiring. Like, I would love to write one. But also, there's parts of my story that if I wrote a book, I would want those parts to be included because that's part of my story. But I'm not ready to talk about them yet, and I've never talked about them like publicly. But if I wrote a book, I would want to talk about them. Does that make sense? So I'd have to be ready for it to be broadcasted to the world. Also, my story's not over, you know? Like, where does the chapter end, right? Amanda, who is this? Do we know him? If not, I'd say skip time out on this one. Oh, thank you, Jason. I don't know who that is. Actually, it sounds like my cousin. I'm just gonna put them in timeout because I'm not like mad at them or anything. I think it's taking from the conversations that you guys are trying to have. Amanda should definitely write a book. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Roz. I'm from Iowa, but I was in Utah for a week or two, and the former FLDS people were so amazing. Oh yeah, I've met a lot of ex-FLDS, and they're so like, every single one that I've met, they're so down to earth and genuine and just very kind. One thing that did shock me though was they potty mouths. They would cuss a lot. And I would ask them like, isn't it against your religion to cuss? But I guess like cussing and drinking was not as big of a deal in the FLDS as in the Order. But here's the weird thing, saying God was a huge deal, similar to the Order. Like they would say, if you say OMG, that sorry, someone texted me. I'll text you back in a second. Saying OMG or God in name is like the Ten Commandments, saying the Lord's name in vain. That is breaking one of the Ten Commandments. So it was like, that's why we would always say Heavenly Father. But in like, if you research the Bible, it makes more sense that commandment, thou shalt not say thy Lord's name in vain. In my mind, this is just my brain, my interpretation is, I believe it's don't preach the Lord's word in vain. Don't talk for the Lord. Don't say the Lord's name in vain, right? Don't say the Lord said this. Don't do things in selfish ways and slap the Lord's name on it. That's in vain. That's how I take it, and that's partially why I think the FLDS and the Order, maybe the AV group, I don't know for sure, but the FLDS and the Order definitely say, you know, saying God is like, you know, it's like you cannot say his name in vain, and that's what that 10th commandment is. And my brain thinks they did that so that they wouldn't have to preach that saying the Lord's name in vain is preaching wrong things in the name of the Lord, because I believe that they're doing that. 100% they're doing that. And if they have that as a 10th commandment, it would cause us to question, are they, you know, who's breaking that commandment? That's just in my brain. I'm not saying that's exactly what the thought process was, but why is it that the FLDS and the order, it's such a big deal to say God? And I remember even, was it Marianne Barlow? She was talking about how in some cases you couldn't even say got. They would rather you say, I went to the store and I brought back groceries, rather than I got groceries. Because got is too close to God. Like, that's how restricting, yeah. I think it's crazy. I can help you with spelling, grammar, editing if you decide to go. Aw, you're so sweet, Jay Snow. Yeah, I definitely need all the help I can get. Since women are not taken care of well in the order, have there ever been cases of women having affairs because they're unfulfilled? Yes. There have been cases where women accidentally get pregnant, especially because birth control is not really talked about. I do want to do a video on birth control just for the women in the order so that they know that they can have control over if they get pregnant or not. Because the men are not putting condoms on, that's for sure. But there's a really easy way to be able to protect yourself if you, because sadly a lot of the women are getting marital rape, and if they don't want to have a kid, they shouldn't have to. So I think I really am going to come out with a video that's just going to be like a message for order women, telling them things that I wish I would have known while I was in the order. And they can do with that information what they will. I know I keep having all of these ideas of new episodes, and then I have people telling me, man, you need to get this information out there, and sometimes it gets really stressful. So the podcast is one thing though that I'm really excited about. That one was one thing that I was like, I want to do that this year. I'm going to have a podcast by the end of this year. And I'm glad that it got out sooner than the end of the year. So anyway, I think I'm going to end this soon. By the way, I missed who is 27. Don't need to repeat the whole story. Number 27 is a living order member. So we can't really say his name, but I called him Mr. Gustavson. But he has 3 wives, and he is basically one of there's only a small amount of people trusted with the 10% forms of the order. Russ, you know what the 10% forms are. I explained it earlier in the video for anyone who wants to know. And I also have a whole video explaining the 10% form with a copy of it. But it's hard to get a copy of the 10% form because I think the reason is because they don't want people reading what they're signing. Because it's basically this contract that says you owe us money if you sign it, and you owe us money if you decline it. Owe us money if you sign, owe us money if you decline. But so he was one of the ones, number 27, one of the ones that was like trusted with those copies of the 10% forms and in charge of gathering them, like getting people to sign them and gather them. So he's still in the order today, and he's a very trusted order member. But yeah, he's number 27. We also talked about how there was someone before with the number 27 that didn't, I don't know what happened, if they got excommunicated, but they don't have that number anymore, and it was reassigned to Mr. Gustavson. Okay, Mariah, so if that's a Christian teaching, then I mean, maybe that's taught everywhere, but why is that in the 10 Commandments? Or, yeah, I don't know. It just, to me, doesn't make sense because it's just a word, but it would make more sense that he would, like, if God was creating these 10 Commandments, then saying, do not say my name in vain, to me, I would think that it meant, like, just don't preach things and say that I'm saying them. Don't preach in vain. My name in vain. Basically, keep my name out of your mouth unless you're going to actually, live by the gospel or preach by the gospel that I actually want it to be lived by. When ordermen die, why is their number not given to another member? Because that's their ticket place in heaven. And I've been hearing this through like grapevines of why they do the numbering system, but I believe it goes off of they only believe a certain amount of people are going to get into the celestial kingdom, so they're numbering them. So it wouldn't make sense like, oh, number 3 died, so let's give it to someone else, because there's only a certain amount of these numbers, right? Does that make sense? Only a certain amount are getting into heaven. I like my sister Cami, I don't know where she got this from, but she was saying, oh, so someone was saying, basically, these numbers and like the Mormons and how everyone believes in these religions that they're gonna get into the celestial degree of heaven. It was like, why do they care? And Cami, what did she say? She said they're basically like getting the best real estate in heaven because it's like the better part of heaven, I guess, and it's like the lower you go, the worse it is. I don't know. Interesting concept. But yeah, that's why you can't, if they die, they can't reassign it because there's only one person can get it. Yeah, Flickerfade answered it very well. Thank you, Flickerfade. Taking the Lord's name in vain is both things, not using his name lightly and also being serious when you claim to be Christian and act like it, actually follow the Bible. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see both sides of that. Because to me it was like, it just seemed like all the 10 Commandments were really big deals, right? Like, don't commit adultery, don't commit murder, and then thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? And then don't say my name in vain. And so for me, it was like to say OMG, like to say, that's like if I was a god, to be like, if really mad if someone said, oh, Amanda, like, Amanda, damn it, you know? I wouldn't care. But then again, I'm not a god, so I don't know. I feel like it makes more sense to be like, don't preach my name in vain, saying that I am saying these things when I'm not. But which is funny because everyone, I swear all churches and all cults kind of do that in their own way. Because they're human. But I want to clarify, I don't believe any of that stuff. That's just my interpretations of it, and I don't even know what I believe in happens after we die. So I'm not saying, oh, this is what the 10 Commandments mean, da 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 da. I'm just saying it makes sense that this is what it was intended to be, and that humans turned it into that. But I'm not like a Bible scholar or anything. Okay, we've hit about an hour and I have to go. I have to go give someone a ride, so I'm gonna let you guys go. But I think I'm gonna go live on Patreon a little bit later today. So for the Patreon family, maybe I'll message some of you guys on Patreon and see what a good time to go live is. But if you are not following my Patreon, I did leave it linked down below. If you scroll down, there's a little pointing emoji to click the Patreon. And you can join the Patreon family. It has always boggled my mind how they believe this relatively small group, the Order, out of the trillions of humans that have been on this earth, that they are the only ones going to heaven, right? You know what? An Order person actually gave me a really good piece of like perspective that I didn't even get when I was in the Order. They were like, it's funny how they say that only Order members can make it into heaven, but Jesus was never an Order member, and his disciples were the Order wasn't even created, you know? And I was like, that's a good point. Look at you, thinking for yourself. Better not tell anyone. All right. Love you guys. Bye, Ruby. Bye, Alice. A lower level live. Oh, I can go lower level on Patreon. I miss you guys. We can do that. We can do a Patreon live for everybody. Love you, Crystal. Bye, Lulu. Bye, Caitlin. See you next week. For those of you, too, who are wanting the podcast, who let me just put this at the very end so you can get on there. You just go to Spotify and go to the Culty Crew podcast. We have 3 episodes on there right now. You can go there after this. And then if you can't get to Spotify, you don't have a Spotify account, I will be releasing those episodes tomorrow and the next day, all 3 of them. So thank you guys for joining me. Go over to Eskel's channel. He's starting to go live right now. Okay, bye.